Good evening and welcome to ITV News. This is Monday night's calendar.
Hello, good evening. Here are tonight's main stories.
Mr. Crisp, is there anything you'd like to say following your guilty plea? Anything you'd like to say to the family of Mr. Townsend at all?
After losing his job and his reputation, this 55-year-old appeared in court over his offensive online message about a football fan's death at Hillsborough.
You're at a loss as to how low some people will stoop just because they think it's a bit of banter. I mean, somebody died. Nobody should go to a football match and not come home again.
Also tonight, skin deep. There are calls for a total ban on talcum powder, as experts say it could be linked to cancer.
The sample came back from the hospital confirming that there was asbestos and talc, and at that point the whole thing just felt even more horrific, if that's possible.
In sport, over and out. A bizarre end to the bout for Sheffield's Liam Cameron as he and opponent Ben Whittaker take a tumble and end up ringside.
And licking his wounds, how Ota here went down to 8 lives after becoming trapped under a car bonnet for hours as it drove around Bradford. Hello, thank you for joining us. First this evening, a Sheffield man has admitted making a grossly offensive social media post about the death of a West Bromwich Albion fan at Hillsborough last month. Mark Townsend died after becoming ill during the match, and afterwards Richard Crisp posted on X about his death, making reference to those who died in the Hillsborough disaster.
Well, today at Sheffield Magistrates Court, he pleaded guilty to sending a communication of an indecent or offensive nature. Emma Wilkinson was there. And Emma, this is a post that was met with, well, widespread condemnation within the football community and beyond.
Yes, in fewer than 100 characters, Richard Crisp outraged and upset many people. He also turned his own life upside down. He lost his job, was banned from Sheffield Wednesday for life, and now has a criminal record. The post he made online related to the death of a West Brom fan called Mark Townsend, who died after falling ill in the stands at Hillsborough last month. The same ground, of course, where 97 Liverpool supporters suffered fatal injuries back in 1989. And the post appeared to link the number of people who died in the Hillsborough disaster with the death of Mark Townsend, with part of it saying, "When we get to 100, we'll have a party up the Owls."
And Emma, did Richard Crisp have anything to say about that post when he appeared in court today?
Well, in court, his solicitor said that from the moment he was arrested, he admitted his guilt, that he was extremely remorseful. And as he left court this afternoon, I asked him if he had anything further to add. Mr. Crisp, is there anything you'd like to say following your guilty plea? Anything you'd like to say to the family of Mr. Townsend at all? No comments at all?
Not at this stage.
Not at this stage.
Well, nothing from Mr. Crisp there. What was the reaction to his guilty plea today?
Well, earlier we spoke to the Hillsborough Survivors Support Alliance. They were absolutely sickened when they first saw this post. They actually reported it to the club and said those words have affected a lot of people.
You're at a loss as to how low some people will stoop just because they think it's a bit of banter. I mean, somebody died. Nobody should go to a football match and not come home again. And it has, not just on Hillsborough survivors, but those West Brom fans that were in the stand, well, basically watching a fellow fan die in front of their eyes. You've got to think about how it affects them as well, and their friends. And people just don't realise the hurt and the upset that's caused by what they think is a bit of banter.
Well, Mark Townsend's brother Steve has also said that Crisp's behaviour in no way represents the vast majority of football fans, but he very much wants the focus to be on the circumstances surrounding his brother's death. He has very serious concerns about the amount of time it took for him to receive medical attention, and he wants there to be an independent inquiry. But as far as this case is concerned, a pre-sentence report will now be compiled so the court can decide what would be an appropriate sentence for Crisp, and he will return here in January to find out what that sentence will be.
Emma Wilkinson, thank you very much.
Next, to warnings that the most vulnerable children could suffer when councils across our region make millions of pounds worth of cuts.
Leeds is predicted to have the biggest shortfall in the country in the next couple of years, and those who protect the rights of young people say there could be real long-term damage caused even by shutting a nursery.
Well, Katie Oscroft is live outside Leeds Civic Hall for us tonight. And Katie, why has it come to this?
Well, Ian, there have been some big, tough decisions being taken in this building behind me. Now, council like Leeds say that it's because they've been underfunded for years, and the cost they have to pay, that social care, has been rising dramatically, and they haven't had the money to keep up. So that, they say, is why other services are bearing the brunt.
Is that one all right there?
3-year-old Reese loves playing at home, but he can't wait to go to nursery either. His speech was delayed, so he's needed more care than most to settle in. But his affordable council-run nursery has provided it. Now it's one of a dozen the council is set to pull out of running.
No childcare is affordable, but it's at the lower end of the affordability scale at the council. If it was to go into private hands, then that could spiral to absolutely unaffordable.
Anne says John, it will impact his son.
It's great at nursery because there's a lot of teachers and all of my friends at nursery.
Leeds City Council, hear us say!
There have been protests ever since parents were warned what might happen.
We've devoted a lot of our time to fighting these closures and this privatisation. We feel like we're fighting a losing battle.
But the impact, says one former Children's Commissioner, is long-term.
Huge knock-on consequences of something like that, not only for those children who will be getting all the benefits of being in kind of early years provision, but for those parents too. More children will go without the help they need at the right time.
Leeds Council is predicted to face the biggest deficit in the country over the next 3 years of £152 million. It says it's spending up to £40 million a year more than it used to on social care, and there are plans to cut up to 300 jobs to save money. The council leader says it's working hard on children's services that it has to run.
In Leeds, we have traditionally run far more nurseries than other councils have, and we're having to look about how we can focus on the areas we have to provide, like the children we look after and adult social care, and that means some of the things that we don't have to provide are the ones that are facing changes.
If you had more money, would you spend it on improving the services for vulnerable children and for social care?
Absolutely. We already spend well over 60% of our budget on social care, and there's more we can do to help vulnerable people.
Leeds is not alone in appealing for the government to increase its funding as residents pay more council tax for reduced services. Reese is far too young to understand the current financial situation, yet his nursery is likely to become one of the services his council stops providing because it doesn't have to.
Oh, we heard from little Reese there, didn't we? So, Katie, Reese will be feeling the impact of these cuts, like many more children across West Yorkshire.
That's exactly it, Ian. The council's chipping away at services which it's not obliged to provide. Now, the government, as you might expect, has blamed the previous Conservative regime. It says it inherited a disaster. It says it is committed to fixing the problem. And it's not just a Leeds problem. Over in Bradford, they had to take £140 million from the government's emergency fund, but just to keep services running. So just to be clear as well, this is not a story about big numbers. This is about Reese's nursery. This is about people's lives.
Katie Oscroft live in Leeds. Thank you.
You're watching Monday Night's Calendar with Lara Rostron and Ian White. Thanks for being with us. Coming up before 6:30.
So this is what Leeds Fest looks like after Leeds Fest.
We meet the fashion-mad Leeds couple who are intense about recycling tents.
And for anyone camping last night, it was definitely a chilly one with temperatures hovering just above freezing. But boy, did we see a lovely dollop of blue sky. Where does that leave us for the rest of the week? All the detail a little later on.
Thank you, Kerry. First, a bit of news from around the region. Police have launched an attempted murder investigation after a 16-year-old boy was shot and stabbed with a machete in Leeds at the weekend. The boy was found with serious but not life-threatening injuries on Cambrian Terrace in the Holbeck area just after midnight on Sunday. It's thought he was attacked by a gang nearby.
Parking charges at Barnsley Hospital will increase from today in a bid to help fund essential maintenance. The price of parking for 60 minutes will increase by 20 pence to £1.50. Those with a weekly pass will now pay an extra £1.50. Barnsley Hospital NHS Foundation Trust says charges have only increased twice in the past 16 years and the money will be reinvested into running the car parks and other areas of the hospital. Campaigners say it's time talcum powder was banned from all cosmetics. They want the government to make the change over concerns talc can be linked to cancer.
Yes, although the risk of products causing the disease is small, they say that new laws are needed. Now, talc isn't just present in talcum powder, but also in things like foot powder, blusher and other makeup.
Well, James Webster's been speaking to one woman who took her fight for change to a court in America.
Hannah Fletcher's living with mesothelioma. It's a form of cancer and in her case is incurable. In 2016, she was told she might only live for 12 months. She needed surgery so severe she wrote letters to her children in case she didn't survive.
I also wanted my children to hear it from me because at the time Luke was about 5 and Holly was 10, 11. So they were pretty young to try and understand what on earth was going on.
Tests on Hannah's cancer suggest it contains particles of asbestos, which may have come from talcum powder she inhaled as a child.
I think the big turning point was when the sample came back from the hospital confirming that there was asbestos and talc. And at that point, the whole thing just felt even more horrific, if that's possible.
This professor from the University of Bradford, who specialises in mesotheliomas, says while she has confidence in products manufactured here in the UK, she would advise people to take more care when buying products abroad.
In the case of women, it is because the talcum powder was used in the genital area. They can get absorbed by the tissues, and we have identified particles of asbestos in the ovarian tissues, so that caused the generation of cancer.
While some products here in the UK still contain talc, others have now replaced it with cornstarch instead. Hannah and her solicitor would like the law changed to force all companies to remove talc from products after she reached an out-of-court settlement in America with one of the leading talc manufacturers.
I don't want people to think that it's only talcum powder in the past that's been contaminated with asbestos. I know of tests being done on cosmetic products which have been brought a few weeks ago, a few months ago, and they contain asbestos fibres. So what needs to be done is that there needs to be a blanket ban on using talcum powder. There is no need to use talcum powder anymore.
We've put those concerns to the government. They say that they're sorry to hear of Hannah's story, adding, while we have robust product safety regulations in place, we will not hesitate to respond to reports of unsafe products and will act if any are found to exceed safe levels. Hannah knows her cancer has significantly shortened her life. She's now determined to do what she can to reduce the risk of other people developing the same form of cancer. James Webster, ITV News.
Yes, we wish her all the best. Well, it's time for some sport now, and FA Cup fever is gripping Guiseley.
Xero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Well, let's say good evening now to Arif. And Arif, some of our lower league teams are going to be in the spotlight tonight.
Yeah, about time too as well, Ian, I say, as the FA Cup. We'll start with the FA Cup, and Guiseley, who play in the 7th tier of English football, will find out who they'll be drawn against in the first round, with the draw taking place tonight at Valley Parade. The Lions are in the hat for the first time in 3 years after beating full-time side Kidderminster at the weekend. Keeper Joe Cracknell saved this penalty to keep the National League side at bay. Then Will Longbottom fired into an empty net for the part-timers as they held on for a 1-0 win.
you look at the big clubs in there at this moment in time, like Birmingham, Bolton, Huddersfield, Bradford City. We know that if we were to draw one of those at home, then the likelihood is we get the game on TV. So from a finance point of view, that'd be fantastic, and I'm sure all our players would love to pit themselves against some of the best in League Two and League One.
Gaisley will be joined by non-league sides Scarborough, York and Gainsborough in tonight's draw at 7 o'clock. Now, it is, of course, the international break, but there was still a handful of games in the Football League. Rotherham played out a 3-3 draw against Peterborough. Malik Wilk's solo effort was the pick of the goals in that one. Andy Cook's brace against his former employers gave Bradford a 2-0 win over Tranmere. Harrogate are back to winning ways thanks to a howler from the Newport keeper. And former Sheffield United striker David McGoldrick paid tribute to his former teammate George Baldock after scoring a 94th minute equaliser for Notts County against Chesterfield.
Yeah, lovely gesture there. Yes. Now let's move on to Rugby League and the Leeds Rhinos wheelchair team. Well, they've ended in style, haven't they?
Oh, they absolutely have, Lara, as you say, in style. They capped off an incredible season by beating the West Yorkshire rivals Halifax to win the wheelchair grand final. Leeds did it the hard way as they came from behind to beat the Panthers 52 points to 32. The Rhinos have become the first team to go the whole season completely unbeaten.
The men's, the women's, the wheelchair, we're all expected to perform and win. So that feeds down all the way to the wheelchair team. Is we're expected to go out there and get trophies for this club. But we love that because we want to do it for the club. Do you know, we're all from Leeds. We're all proud of the club. It means so much to us to be a part of what is one of the biggest rugby league clubs in the world, and it means a lot to us, mate. So every opportunity we have to go out there and fight for a trophy, we'll do it.
And of course, congratulations to Hunslet, who won promotion to Rugby League's Championship over the weekend. Now, finally from me, to one of the most bizarre endings to a boxing fight you are ever likely to see. Sheffield's Liam Cameron was taking on Ben Whittaker in Saudi Arabia when in the final few seconds of the 5th round, this happened. Both fighters tumbling out of the ring over the top rope. The fight was declared a draw after Whittaker injured his ankle in the fall and was unable to continue. I will say that thankfully Whittaker is all right. He wasn't seriously injured, but I've never seen that before ever in my life.
He kind of went for a hug, didn't they? And just
tumbled over the ring, yeah.
Interesting.
More wrestling than boxing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Now then, it's the biggest music festival in the region, attracting tens of thousands of campers each year, but many of them leave Leeds Festival without their belongings and rubbish, and tons of it goes straight into landfill.
Well, now a fashion designer from Leeds, along with her husband, is hoping to change all that by recycling the tents and sleeping bags left behind. Sarah Clark went to meet them.
So this is what Leeds Fest looks like after Leeds Fest. As you can see, we've got miles and miles of trash. Now, some of this will be salvaged and put to good use, but sadly most of it's going to end up in landfill.
Especially the surplus of damaged tents and broken sleeping bags left behind by festival goers, which is why James Feddick salvages them for upcycling. James's wife Jo, a fashion designer, then transforms them into sustainable fashion.
We want to change the way fashion works. We don't want fashion to continue with a throwaway culture, and we want to lead the way by saying, look, reuse, remake, upcycle, the opportunities are there. Let's do it.
Well, I got into upcycled fashion because I studied fashion design in uni, and it became evidently clear to me how unsustainable the industry is. So rather than doing that, I tried to branch out and make something that I could actually be proud of. I mean, I wish that no tents were left behind at all, but since so many are, I think the fact that we're actually finding a good way to use them is a great initiative, and I'm very proud of it.
Upcycling just one recovered tent can produce up to 10 items of clothing or bags.
With the tents, obviously they're a bit trickier, and same with sleeping bags. Like, the material itself is a lot harder to work with, but presents a lot more interesting designs.
By showcasing their creative reuse of waste, the couple hope it will inspire others to rethink.
To always try and reuse what you have, like whether you're doing it yourself or giving it away to someone that can. Like, rather than just throwing everything and having it end up in landfill, actually consider what you can do with it instead.
Jo and James both hope their work can help alter the patterns of behaviour, so sites like this and no more. Sarah Clark, ITV News in Leeds.
Good thing to do.
Yeah, really good thing to do, isn't it? Now then, it's weather time. It's Monday night, and Kerry is here.
Yeah,
with
you
a bit of a
want to
glow.
be in a tent this morning. It was
well,
a chilly one.
Would you? But you've got a bit of a glow about you, haven't you?
A bit of a glow?
I think so.
You've been out and about, haven't you?
It was lovely today. It was chilly, but we had some sunshine. Thank you for your photos. This was Filey, especially out in the northeast, and this was Scarborough. But yeah, I think I know what you mean there, Ian, because over the weekend, yesterday, it was even colder, but we had that really high, thin cirrostratus cloud, so high, thin, and basically a blanket of cloud, which made us see this halo around the sun. It's a rainbow effect, it's a phenomenon. This one was mine in Nidderdale. I was really chuffed to see it on my 11-mile walk. It was really worth stopping and taking a photograph and making the walk extra long. And also Rob noticed it, even reflection there in Scammerden Reservoir. So a big thank you for the halos. But yes, that meant that our sunshine was a little bit bright and a little bit milky, and we've got the blue skies today. But everyone's been talking about, oh, it's getting really warm by midweek. Oh, it'll be sunny, we'll be getting the bikinis back out. No chance.
Maybe not.
Yesterday, 9 Celsius, we weren't getting higher than 9 Celsius across all parts of the region. Today, at least, we were in double figures, but below the average. Tomorrow, we might get to the average of 14, but by Wednesday, yes, highs of 18. But will we see any sunshine? So we replace the colder air with the warmer air. It's coming all the way from Spain and Portugal, but unfortunately low pressure to the west, and that means pretty unsettled conditions, particularly to western parts. So head east maybe for the best of the conditions from Wednesday onwards, and of course forecast is coming up.
Top tip, thank you.
As always.
And I'm not getting my bikini out, I promise. Now, finally tonight, to the incredible story of Ota the kitten, who was plucked from the engine of a car which had been travelling around Bradford for hours.
The driver called firefighters after discovering that he'd been carrying the little unexpected passenger on numerous journeys in the city. Luckily, despite suffering 2 broken legs, Ota's story has a near perfect ending, as Sally Simpson explains.
This is Ota. He's already used up 1 of his 9 lives. Attracted by the warmth of a car engine, he climbed aboard. But as he soon found out, there's no such thing as a free ride. After being driven around Bradford undetected for hours, his cries were eventually heard, and firefighters came to his rescue.
Initially, we just thought it was something that we'd be able to deal with quite quick. But when we turned up, it kind of became apparent that it was a little bit more complex because nobody knew where the kitten actually was. When we did locate the cat, we understood why the sound was coming out of various parts of the car because it was in like a tunnelled area. In the end, we did have to jack the car off the ground and get crew members underneath and basically dismantle part of the vehicle, the front end under the bumper and part of the covers that were there as well. The kitten did actually jump out and try running off a little bit, but then we managed to catch it and then handed over to the cat rescue staff.
Katie is now caring for Ota at her cat sanctuary. He's one of more than 30 cats homed here. Ota currently has more needs than most.
He was very dehydrated, he was very thin, very, very frightened, and he was in significant pain. Because Ota was driven around for several hours prior to being rescued, unfortunately he has got 2 broken back legs. He's having strict cage rest and lots of playtime in his pen and lots of love and TLC and pain relief.
How long do you expect him to be in here?
I would expect he'll be in intensive care around 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, while the bones hopefully heal.
And it's hoped Ota's next car journey will be a safer one to a new home. Sally Simpson, ITV News, Bradford.
Oh, get well, Ota. Get well soon. I've been there, actually. I've met Katie, and she does a fantastic job looking after really poorly cats and kittens.
She's obviously got a heart of gold, hasn't she?
She has, yeah, and they need a bit of love, so it's great.
They do, and I think Ota is enjoying it, isn't he?
Certainly. Now then, let's get that weather forecast. With news of it getting warmer, here's Kerry.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again. What a beautiful start it was across the region this morning. Yes, chilly, a touch of frost, but plenty of blue sky and those autumn colours like the maple here and also the oak looking absolutely gorgeous. That gorgeous combination of the oranges and the blues and of course the reds of the cranberry. Weather photos. itv.com. And you can see those gorgeous blue skies or clear skies across most parts of the region for much of the day, but everything here to the south is nudging its way northwards as we head through into tonight. So maybe clear skies to the north for a little longer, which will allow for the temperatures to dip slightly for the first part of the night, but basically it's clouding up and it will become misty and murky into the early hours as the winds start to freshen and start to pull in the milder air from a southerly direction. So maybe not quite as cold and pretty as it was this morning. 7:35 and 6:08 are your sun times for tomorrow. So a lot of cloud expected, some low cloud, mist and murk, even some dampness out of this low cloud over the hills, the dales, the Pennines and the peaks first thing in the morning. As we head into the afternoon, that freshening southerly could break up the cloud a little bit to southern parts, but essentially quite disappointing, cloudy, misty, murky, but milder. Temperatures will be back to where we'd expect for the time of year and the winds starting to gather strength. It is a bit of a mess from Wednesday onwards, definitely feeling warmer, still a question mark about how far these outbreaks of showery rain will push eastwards, but certainly the Pennines soaking up those showers which could be heavy, accompanied by strong and gusty winds. But look at the temperatures, 18 or 19 as we head towards midweek. Thursday looks like a respite, but a windy end on Friday.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Thank you, Kerry. Now then, finally, before we go, some news about us. We'd like to tell you about Calendar's success at last Friday's Yorkshire Centre Royal Television Society Awards, where we came away with 3 gongs. Our very own Laura, my TV wife, won Presenter of the Year for some hard-hitting interviews and live location work right across our region. Many, many congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I'm looking a bit orange there, but thank you. Jonathan Brown also won the News and Current Affairs Story category for his investigation into knife crime and its far-reaching effects.
Yes, and Johnny's report featured in a full programme about knife crime, which helped the whole Calendar team win News Programme of the Year. Thank you to everyone who took part and spoke to us on that programme, and you for watching us every night.
Yes, yes. Thank you most of all to you viewers for watching, because basically without you we wouldn't be here. So yeah, thank you.
What do you think, Kerry, about Laura's little win there?
I'm right proud of you, lass.
Yeah, and you were right beside me on the night as well, which was lovely. Thank you very much.
Well done again. That's all for now. I'll be back with our late news. That's at 10:30, and we'll all be back with our main edition of Calendar tomorrow night at 6. Mary's next. From us all, a very good night.
Good night.
Good night.